Have you ever wondered why, after praying so many times, the answer still seems delayed? Have you ever felt that silence was louder than your cries, and in that silence you questioned whether your prayers even mattered? That is the moment where most people stop, where discouragement convinces them that maybe prayer doesn't work, that maybe heaven has forgotten them. But what if the delay is not denial? What if the silence is not absence, but preparation? Prayer is not about reciting words into empty air. It is about engaging in a relationship with the one who sees beyond the surface. Every time you pray, something shifts. Sometimes in the world around you, and sometimes within you. The tragedy is that too many give up just before the shift becomes visible. They abandon their prayer like a seed dug up too early, never allowing it to take root and produce fruit. But persistence in prayer is not about forcing God's hand. It is about proving your faith can endure until the fullness of time has come. When you pray and see no answer, it does not mean heaven is ignoring you. It may mean heaven is aligning things beyond your sight. It may mean you are being stretched to carry the answer when it arrives. Consider how a farmer must wait after sowing seed. He cannot rush the soil. He cannot demand the rain. He must prepare, nurture, and believe that what is unseen is already alive beneath the surface. Prayer is like that. The moment you spoke it in faith, something began. Just because you cannot see it yet does not mean it isn't working. Prayer is not a ritual. It is not a set of memorized words or phrases repeated without thought or heart. Prayer is the lifeline between the created and the Creator, the bridge that connects human limitation with divine possibility. Too often, people treat prayer as if it were an obligation to fulfill or a routine to check off their day, but prayer is much more than that. It is the breath of the soul, the conversation that keeps you alive in purpose, the direct connection to the one who holds your destiny. To reduce prayer to a ritual is to strip it of its power. A ritual can be performed without faith, without expectation, without relationship. But true prayer is fueled by belief, it is sustained by hope, and it is made powerful by the trust that the one who hears is able to respond. When you understand prayer as a lifeline, you realize it is not optional. Just as the body cannot live without oxygen, the spirit cannot thrive without prayer. It is through prayer that clarity comes in confusion, that peace enters in storms, and that strength rises in weakness. People who treat prayer casually often struggle to find direction because prayer was never meant to be an emergency button you press only in crisis. It was meant to be a continual flow, a daily connection that keeps you aligned with heaven's rhythm. If you disconnect from prayer, you disconnect from the very source of your guidance and strength. This is why persistence in prayer matters so deeply. When you see prayer as ritual, you pray only when you feel like it or when circumstances push you. But when you see prayer as lifeline, you understand that whether the day is bright or dark, whether the path is clear or uncertain, you cannot afford to cut off that connection. It becomes like breathing. You don't breathe only when it's convenient. You breathe because without it, you cannot survive. Prayer is not about convenience. It is about survival in a world that constantly pulls you away from your purpose. When life pushes you into discouragement, the temptation will be to silence your prayers. Disappointment whispers, "Why pray again if nothing has changed?" But that thought is rooted in the view of prayer as ritual, as if prayer only has value when an immediate answer appears. When you truly grasp prayer as lifeline, you see that every prayer has value whether or not you see the result instantly. Every word spoken in faith reaches further than your eyes can see. Sometimes the answer is released in the spiritual before it manifests in the natural. Sometimes the shift is happening inside you before it shows up outside you. Either way, the lifeline is working, whether you feel it or not. What is tragic is that so many people quit too early. They give up on prayer as if it failed, not realizing that the very act of prayer was keeping them afloat even in the silence. The moment they stop, discouragement drowns them, confusion surrounds them, and hopelessness begins to grow. That is because cutting off prayer is like cutting off air. It doesn't take long before the effects show. A soul without prayer suffocates under the weight of worry, but a soul that clings to prayer finds the strength to rise above storms. To see prayer as lifeline also changes how you approach it. You don't come with empty words. You come with expectation. You don't come to impress. You come to connect. You don't come to repeat what you heard someone else say. You come to pour out your own heart and to listen for guidance. This is why books filled with wisdom speak of prayer not as empty repetition, but as conversation with meaning. It is not about how many words you say. It is about the posture of your heart and the depth of your trust. When your heart is sincere, even the shortest prayer can move mountains, because it is not the length of the prayer that matters, but the faith behind it. Prayer as lifeline also means it cannot be seasonal. Some only pray in moments of crisis, as if God is a last resort. But a lifeline is not something you grab only when drowning. It is what keeps you from sinking in the first place. When prayer becomes consistent, it builds strength within you before the storm even arrives. It prepares you, fortifies you, and guards you, so that when challenges come, you are not shaken as easily. The greatest warriors are not those who prayed when the battle began, but those who prayed before the battle ever came, storing strength for the day of testing. To see prayer as a lifeline is to live in continual awareness that you are never alone, never abandoned, never without access to help. That awareness is what sustains you when life feels overwhelming. It keeps you grounded when opportunities arise, and it lifts you when trials press heavy. Prayer is not about religion. It is about survival, about connection, about aligning your heart with the one who already knows the path ahead. When you see it this way, you will never treat prayer as an option again. You will see it as the very force that holds your life together. Persistence in prayer is the truest sign that trust runs deeper than circumstances. Anyone can pray once when the need feels urgent or when the weight of life presses them into desperation. But persistence, the decision to come back again and again, even when there is no immediate response, shows that your faith is anchored beyond what your eyes can see. Persistence says, I do not measure the faithfulness of God by the speed of the answer. I trust His timing more than my own impatience. This kind of prayer proves that belief is not shallow emotion, but rooted conviction. When you keep praying despite silence, you are declaring that your hope is not dependent on conditions. You are saying that you believe even when you cannot see, that you trust even when you cannot feel, that you continue even when you are weary. This is the essence of faith: confidence in things not seen, assurance in what is hoped for. The world measures success by speed, but heaven measures faith by endurance. And endurance in prayer is one of the purest expressions of trust you can ever give. Many people walk away from prayer too quickly because they assume unanswered requests mean God has turned away. They forget that silence is often the greatest test of faith. It is easy to trust when answers are immediate, but true faith is revealed when you continue without proof. Persistence in prayer is not about forcing God to respond. It is about shaping your spirit to remain steady in uncertainty. It teaches you to depend on more than results. It teaches you to depend on relationship. Consider how a child continues to ask their parent for what they believe they need. They do not stop after one request because they trust the parent's ability to provide. They keep asking because they know who they are asking. That persistence is born from confidence in the parent's heart, not from doubt. In the same way, persistence in prayer is not nagging, it is confidence. It is saying, I know who I'm speaking to, and I know He hears me, so I will not stop until the answer comes. Persistence also transforms the one who prays. with every prayer. The heart is refined, motives are clarified, and desires are reshaped. What you thought you wanted in the beginning may change as you grow in faith, and persistence is what allows that change to happen. The very act of continuing to pray shifts you from demanding to aligning, from seeking your will to trusting His. By staying in prayer, you open yourself up to the deeper work that silence was meant to accomplish. You become less focused on the absence of the answer and more attentive to the presence of God in the process. This is why persistence carries power. It is not only about receiving what you asked for, but about becoming someone who can handle what you asked for. Quick answers may satisfy temporarily, but persistence builds capacity. It enlarges your faith so that when the answer finally arrives, you are not just a receiver but a steward. Without persistence, blessings can overwhelm you. With persistence, they are received with maturity, humility, and gratitude. The hardest moment in prayer is often when nothing seems to change, but it is in those very moments that heaven leans closest to listen. Each repeated prayer is a statement of endurance, a declaration that circumstances will not control your spirit. It is faith defying the evidence of delay. When you persist in prayer, you step into the flow of timeless truths that promise those who endure will always see the reward. Persistence becomes proof that you are not after quick relief, but after eternal alignment. To persist is to fight against every whisper of doubt that says you should quit. It is to silence the voice of discouragement that tells you your prayers are wasted. It is to stand firm when your emotions want to run away. And every time you persist, you are building spiritual muscles that can hold the weight of the answer when it finally comes. This is why persistence is not weakness. It is strength. It is the unwavering choice to keep knocking until the door opens, to keep seeking until the way is revealed, to keep trusting until what was unseen becomes reality. Every unanswered prayer carries within it a lesson that denial is not always the truth of what is happening. What feels like silence is often preparation, and what looks like delay may actually be divine timing, arranging the pieces you cannot yet see. The problem is that people often interpret the absence of an immediate answer as rejection, when in reality it may be a redirection or a setup for something greater. Prayer is not a transaction where you submit a request and receive instant results. It is a process of alignment where both your heart and your circumstances are being shaped for what is best. There are moments when you pray for something earnestly and nothing seems to move. In those times, frustration can rise and doubt can creep in, making you believe your words were wasted. But unanswered prayers are not wasted prayers. They are seeds planted in the soil of time, waiting for the right conditions to bloom. If they came too early, they might wither. If they came too late, they might overwhelm. The waiting space ensures that when the answer arrives, it meets you prepared and capable of carrying it. Preparation is often hidden from your eyes. While you are asking for change, unseen forces are aligning people, opportunities, and resources to meet the request. You may not notice it, but the path is being cleared, the foundation is being laid, and even your own heart is being refined. Sometimes the very thing you pray for requires a stronger version of you to handle it. You might think you are ready, but the waiting proves otherwise. The unanswered moment becomes the furnace where your patience, character, and faith are forged. Think of how a parent responds to a child who asks for something good, but at the wrong time. A loving parent does not say no forever. Instead, they say not yet, because they understand the dangers of giving too soon. To the child, the delay feels like denial, but the parent knows it is protection. The same principle applies in the realm of prayer. The delay is not to harm you, but to preserve you, not to deny you, but to deliver what you asked for at the right time and in the right way. Unanswered prayers also reveal whether your faith is tied to outcomes or to relationship. If you only trust when the answer is quick, then your faith is shallow and conditional. But if you continue to pray, continue to trust, and continue to seek even when there is no visible change, then your faith has roots deeper than circumstances. You prove that your confidence is not in the timing of the answer, but in the character of the one you are speaking to. That kind of faith cannot be shaken because it rests on trust rather than results. The silence of unanswered prayers can also protect you from what you do not see. There are times when you are praying for something that looks good but carries hidden consequences. What you think will bless you may actually burden you. What you desire may not match what you are destined for. And so the silence is a shield guarding you from a future you cannot yet discern. Only later, looking back, do you realize that the unanswered prayer was one of the greatest answers you ever received? Every waiting season has a purpose beyond the surface. It is in those seasons that you learn perseverance, that you discover resilience, and that you cultivate the kind of faith that does not crumble under pressure. The unanswered prayer is a classroom where you are taught that timing belongs to God, and that what is being prepared is often greater than what you requested. To lose heart in the delay is to miss the growth, the preparation, and the deeper blessing hidden within it. So when the answer seems delayed, the proper response is not despair but trust. Trust that the silence has purpose. Trust that the delay has design. Trust that your prayer has already been heard and is being prepared for its proper unveiling. The waiting room is not a wasted room. It is the place where you are shaped to carry the very thing you have been asking for. Faith grows strongest when it is stretched by silence. In the moments when answers seem far away and heaven feels quiet, something powerful is happening within the soul. Silence does not mean absence, and delay does not mean rejection. Instead, silence is the testing ground where faith is deepened, refined, and proven. If every prayer were answered instantly, there would be no need for trust. Faith would become unnecessary because certainty would replace it. But the very nature of faith is to believe when nothing yet confirms it, to hold fast when every outward sign suggests letting go. When you pray and the silence lingers, it is natural to feel frustration, but that very frustration pushes you to a decision. Will you give up, or will you press in deeper? Faith is not the absence of questions, it is the choice to trust even when the questions remain unanswered. It is in those long nights of waiting that faith matures from being an idea in your mind to becoming an anchor in your heart. A shallow faith is content only with immediate results, but a tested faith learns to endure the quiet without losing confidence. Silence also strips away false motives. When prayers are not answered quickly, you begin to examine why you are asking and what you truly seek. Sometimes you realize the prayer was more about convenience than purpose, more about temporary comfort than lasting transformation. The silence forces reflection, and in reflection your faith becomes purified. You begin to pray differently, not just for relief, but for alignment with what is eternal. In this way, silence does not weaken faith, it cleanses it, removing the noise and leaving only what is genuine. The strongest faith is not built in moments of abundance, but in seasons of absence. It is easy to trust when blessings are visible, when doors are opening, when life feels full. But the faith that can stand through silence is the faith that cannot be shaken when storms arrive. It is forged in hidden places, in the quiet determination to pray again, even when yesterday's prayer seemed unanswered. That decision to return, to kneel, to speak words of trust once more, is what transforms faith from something fragile into something unbreakable. This growth cannot be rushed. Just as a tree develops deep roots by withstanding strong winds and harsh seasons, faith develops depth through the winds of silence and the storms of waiting. Every moment that seems unanswered is actually an invitation to dig deeper, to grow stronger, to stretch wider. You may not feel it in the moment, but each prayer spoken in the silence is strengthening the roots of your belief, preparing you to withstand greater challenges and to carry greater blessings when they arrive. So faith in silence is not wasted, it is sharpened. It becomes resilient, steadfast, and enduring. It becomes the kind of faith that is not easily shaken by disappointment or delay. And it is precisely this kind of faith that carries you through the darkest nights and prepares you to hold what you once only dared to hope for. Persistence in prayer is more than repeating words. It is the demonstration of a heart that refuses to let go of hope. It shows that you believe not only in what you are asking for, but also in the one you are asking from. When you pray again and again, you are declaring that you will not surrender to discouragement, you will not be defeated by delay, and you will not be silenced by what you cannot yet see. Persistence says that your faith is stronger than your feelings, and that your trust goes deeper than the absence of visible answers. There is power in persistence because it reshapes your spirit. Every time you return to prayer, you are training your heart to stay anchored in trust instead of drifting into despair. You are telling your mind to reject the lie that nothing is happening. You are reminding yourself that silence is not the same as abandonment. With each prayer, your determination grows, and you begin to embody the very strength that your words seek. Persistence turns prayer into a rhythm that keeps your spirit alive, even when circumstances feel lifeless. Think about the stories of those who received their breakthroughs after long seasons of waiting. Their testimonies were not built in comfort but in persistence. They refused to stop knocking when the door seemed shut. They continued to ask when the answer seemed delayed. They kept seeking when the path seemed hidden. What made them stand out was not perfection, but perseverance. They simply refused to quit. And because they would not quit, they discovered the power that persistence unlocks. Prayer is not just about what you receive, it is about who you become in the process. Persistent prayer molds character. It shapes you into someone who can handle the very blessing you are seeking. Without persistence, blessings might overwhelm you because your foundation would be too shallow. But through persistence, you learn patience, endurance, humility, and unwavering faith. These qualities become the strength that sustains you when the blessing finally arrives. There is also a mystery in persistence that moves the unseen. Each prayer builds upon the last, like drops of water filling a vessel until it overflows. You may not know which prayer will be the one that tips the scale, but every word spoken adds weight to the promise. To give up too soon is to walk away when you are closer than you think. Persistence ensures that you remain present until the answer is revealed. This is why persistence is not just a discipline, but a lifeline. It keeps you connected to the source when everything around you tries to pull you away. It reminds you that you are not alone, that your voice matters, and that heaven still hears. By refusing to stop, you place yourself in the position where breakthrough can meet you, and where the blessing you seek can no longer be delayed. Answered prayers often arrive in forms we do not expect, and this is why discernment is so important. Many people miss what they have been waiting for because they are looking for it in a familiar package or a predictable shape. But answers rarely come in the way we imagine, they come in the way we need. If you are not attentive, you might disregard the very thing you prayed for simply because it does not match the picture you carried in your mind. Discernment allows you to recognize answers even when they are wrapped in disguise. Sometimes the blessing arrives through a challenge. What looks like resistance may actually be the open door, shaping you for what you have asked. The opportunity might not appear glamorous. It might look like extra responsibility, an unexpected connection, or even a moment of discomfort. Yet within it lies the seed of what you have been seeking. Without discernment, you may complain about what was meant to carry you forward. With discernment, you see past the surface and recognize the deeper purpose unfolding. Answers can also come through people you least expect. The voice you overlook, the person you disregard, may carry the wisdom or opportunity that opens the way. Discernment teaches you humility, to listen carefully, to remain open, and to see beyond appearances. Sometimes the messenger is ordinary, but the message they carry is extraordinary. To lack discernment is to dismiss what could transform your life. There are also times when the answer comes gradually instead of instantly. You may expect a dramatic change, but instead the change unfolds in steps. Each step is an answer in progress, guiding you closer to the fullness of what you asked for. Discernment helps you value gratitude in prayer is more than a polite response after receiving what you asked for. It is a posture of the heart that recognizes goodness even before the answer is visible. When you approach prayer with gratitude, you shift your focus from what is missing to what has already been given. This shift changes how you see your circumstances. Instead of feeling consumed by lack, you become aware of the blessings that already surround you, and that awareness strengthens your faith to believe for more. Gratitude turns prayer into an act of trust, because it declares, I believe something good is already happening, even if I cannot yet see it. When you give thanks in advance, you are aligning yourself with expectation rather than doubt. Gratitude becomes a declaration of confidence, a way of saying that the answer is already on its way. This posture not only honors the one you are praying to, but also shapes your attitude while you wait. Instead of growing bitter or restless, you remain grounded and hopeful. Gratitude acts as a safeguard for your heart, keeping negativity from stealing your peace during seasons of waiting. Gratitude also transforms how you measure answers. When you are thankful, you are less likely to overlook small beginnings or dismiss progress because it feels incomplete. You start to see every step forward as part of the answer. The door may not be fully open yet, but gratitude allows you to celebrate the crack of light that proves change is near. This perspective keeps you engaged, motivated, and spiritually alert, ready to receive the fullness of what you have prayed for. Furthermore, gratitude multiplies blessings. When you are thankful for what you already have, you create room for more to come. A grateful spirit does not take gifts for granted, and because of this, it attracts greater opportunities and deeper revelations. Gratitude communicates readiness. It shows that you can handle increase without forgetting the source of the blessing. Without gratitude, even answered prayers can feel empty, because the heart has not been trained to appreciate them. It is also important to see gratitude as a form of strength. In difficult seasons, when answers feel far away, gratitude becomes a weapon against despair. It shifts your energy from complaining to rejoicing, from hopelessness to expectation. Choosing to be thankful even in silence is an act of defiance against fear and discouragement. It says that you refuse to let delay steal your joy. Gratitude keeps your spirit alive, your hope intact, and your prayers fervent. Ultimately, gratitude in prayer is not about waiting for everything to be perfect. It is about recognizing that even in imperfection, there is goodness. It is about holding on to joy while you wait, about celebrating progress while anticipating fulfillment. Gratitude lifts your perspective above frustration and anchors your heart in peace, ensuring that no matter how long the journey, your spirit remains steady and your faith unshaken. The true power of prayer is not only in what it brings into your life, but in how it transforms you while you are waiting. Prayer is not simply a request line. It is a refining fire that changes your perspective, deepens your faith, and enlarges your capacity to carry what you are asking for. Many people enter prayer focused on outcomes, but the greater gift is the inner shift that takes place while you wait. The delay does not diminish the power of prayer. It amplifies it by drawing out patience, resilience, and vision that you would not discover otherwise. Prayer molds the heart into one that trusts beyond what is seen. Each time you return in faith, even when nothing appears to be happening, you are declaring that your hope rests in something greater than visible results. That declaration shapes your inner world, turning fear into courage and uncertainty into assurance. Slowly, prayer takes you from being someone who reacts to circumstances into someone who shapes circumstances with steady belief. The waiting period becomes the training ground where you are prepared for the very answers you long for. The transformation is also evident in your priorities. As you pray consistently, you begin to realize that your deepest needs are not always what you first thought they were. The waiting makes you sift through desires and discover what truly matters. You may start by asking for surface solutions, but through the process, you find yourself praying for wisdom, for strength, for clarity, and for endurance. Those qualities, once formed, prepare you not just to receive an answer, but to sustain it when it comes. Prayer becomes less about changing things around you and more about changing the person within you. The refining power of prayer is also seen in how it shifts your relationship with time. Instead of being enslaved to urgency and frustration, you learn patience, which is one of the greatest signs of maturity. Waiting in prayer teaches you that not every delay is a denial, but often a design. It helps you see that timing is part of the answer, and that what comes too quickly may collapse just as quickly. The process instills discipline, reminding you that what is lasting often takes longer to form. Another transformation lies in perspective. Prayer in waiting opens your eyes to notice blessings you once overlooked. It makes you more aware of the small victories, the little provisions, and the quiet assurances that sustain you day by day. Gratitude grows naturally in this process because you begin to see that life is not empty. Even while you wait for the larger fulfillment, you discover that there is joy in the journey, not just in the destination. This is why prayer is never wasted. Even when the answer feels far away, the unseen work being done in your heart is preparing you for a future greater than you imagined. You may enter prayer hoping to change your circumstances, but you often leave with a changed spirit, and that change becomes the true foundation for everything else that follows.